Hello, my name is Anthony Wall. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Americans, I was next to the World Trade Center the morning of the attack and the night before, and I've recorded things leading up to it in and since. Also, for example, as confirmations after the World Trade Center attack, Channel 3 News, WFSB, they attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack. They are recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming that such crimes, there was a whole bunch of organized crimes at the same time, fake conversations, and about the World Trade Center attack, and they changed what other people said about it, and they faked and changed what I said about it too. With people that did that, put fake ties to me too. Since at each campus I went to, people were planting evidences next to the campuses, and there are recorded proofs of that. And people, that's why and how I caught them bringing up the child abusers principal campus to me first. In the news with the sources too, they have ones with the name O'Neill who teach at West Harper campuses, who have and have had collusion slash S with multiple state police locations, also with the CIA, with people involved with CIA syntax on Facebook who are also collusion slash S with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and Eric Jensen, with the girl who brought up the CIA and his confessions tied to that, and my campus leaders' confessions tied to him and them, and their roles with retired police chiefs and former mayors. A whole bunch of people tied to a former mayor, Gold, have her daughter, his daughter, Debbie Gold, fake things in databases. And they force checked her and persuaded me to collusions. I didn't realize that they were doing that. I realized I didn't know the phrase. They were doing it criminally foreign influence. Tactically delusions raw, and they're also making vertical and horizontal confessions tied to the roles with a whole bunch of people with more child abusers before I was born, when I was a little kid. Proven. And more then and now recorded though. Also abuses of the kids, of the leaders of the kids, for the difference of it too used. But so where it's so sensitive, everyone's supposed to follow mandated law. The interbranch have their kids involved. There's a Brian Silver with New Britain Superior Court and with Hartford courts and with Connecticut's District Court. Hartford courts and the District Court. Hartford courts and the Hartford court. I found it was more than one Hartford court, but the Hartford court and the Britain Superior Court affected confessions to me, requests for help before the World Trade Center attack, which was also about confessions about use of the location slash S. And that was an Eric Burgess, also with the reported son of a Dean Judd. And I never had a word of conversation with Dean Judd or his kid. And they were planting sequence shifts to hide what came first. And they became roles more and more with the Saudi attackers and with Wethersfield police that fake conversations with me and ties to me when I was a kid and I was an adult. Two of whom at least are named Mendez. The older one I never had a word of conversation with in my life. He's the only person I saw at the Wethersfield police station when I went there with my Saudi ex. And she's the only one who spoke. He put me in fake conversation with him, making another falsified police report, which was also communications of a confession about his roles with intercities, with New Britain Superior Court, also with his brother, with the hallway, with the principal upskirt nature, involved with worse than they put him in jail for. And that jail had collusions with them with that, forcing that. And they arrested me also with Officer Poison, with digital crimes, with whiting forensics, and with various courts involved with sexual medical offenders since I was a kid and since before I was born. And further then and now with the principal, way worse than upskirt pictures, and his roles at a shopping center or at a Walmart or something like that, where they arrested him reportedly. I recorded them roles also with the untimely death at Trinity College, involved with a whole bunch of people tied to a Robert Rodriguez, who I never saw on the campus in my life. I never had a word of conversation with him in real life. He confirmed things on Facebook. Then they took my Facebook page. He is also with other Facebook pages and people tied to body dumping spots and murders. Also associated with this, Officer Poison, faking changing digital evidences with the CIA. Also with people from New Mexico, people from Maine, people with Canada, people with Mexico, people with Saudi Arabia connected. Time collusion slash S with the police chief Senator Chan and his family and intimate ties. Per them, we're speaking to others too, so they can pretend to want privacy. Also, I wouldn't even bring music into a 911, a World Trade Center attack. You have these punks playing music, and you guys change what I said, fake, and fake what I say. Take truths and go fishing with it criminally. Use truths for lies. Screen your motivation. You want to have a debate about your emotions and your motivations. And you want to speak about others. And you want to speak about motivations. Well, that's my free speech example. You don't have a right to free speech like that unless you're defending yourself. Jump into people's legal cases. Sabotage people from not even saying, pretending. No, it was way worse than that involved with WFSB. They are leaking recorded capacity demonstrate confirmed. They have a whole bunch of people involved with the Roger Suzanne. They have their kids too, interbranch, used for fake motivations. With this O'Neill family too, faking ties to me. They have Whiting Forensics involved with them with sexual medical offenders of kids. Also with this Leahy family with their little kid on Facebook. These are also people directly and indirectly, personally involved with the leaders of Facebook and their campus systems before they were Facebook. You guys make money means what it's not. You have the right to think whatever, but you get out of the way when you're blocking mandated law. Get me off the fake conversations, plural, with themselves and with others. That WFSB pretended, faking outcomes of legal cases that were proven, too. And as their time recording their time, also confessing while pretending their time collusion slash S with various natures of federal criminals in those cases. And their roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases interstates with the same house slash S further involved with them with the sexual medical offender. Why have I not had a response for all what I caught them were doing recorded? Because they're changing what's recorded. They're lying about their motivations. They're measuring and maintaining while the whole time where they're keeping sexual rights right up there, right, sexual styles up there, in the debate right through administrations. They had also who goes to college or what like that stories in the news because that wasn't involved because then they have to hide their actual motivations for that. Don't forget that we have black people's rights of eyes. And the majority of people really know and believe that we could discern. You guys left out the breaching method that reassigned that. Even the ones who didn't read about it knew about this when we were little kids before because they don't have it. The books A through Z are sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly. Use slash S of criminally foreign influence slash worse slash hypercriminally foreign influence, so to speak. I'm not even a lawyer. I recorded the lawyers involved with the Predicate Acts method slash S that James Madison communicated about. That method is replaced right from his declassified communications and right from nature's and by a bunch of fakes, a child abuser since you were kids, taught to use the words of the people of the time, pretend that that's science. When our founders communicated about how nobody had free speech and everyone had to pretend other. The people attacking our founders or the people defending them, the difference is also used by the breaching method, but everything it does, so it uses us through ourselves. So in the future, too, that it will be able to hide behind that because nature itself shows us that a human fact should be nature breaching method is one of the things, those affronts with the syntax and whether it was their criminal warrants or the companies, all that. I remember little kids know that the time and energy it takes them to walk to school, back to school every day. They could have stacked up racks. You got built houses better than these designed by colonial times, designed for a torture, extortion, fact should be nature slavery method, with only permitted collusion slash S against all women, against everyone, against Native Americans, all native difference slash S against everyone. against black pupils, whites of eyes, against everyone. And even if we don't, even if one doesn't have eyes, it's about the same thing. How there are three distinct and hyper invisible but still discernible parts of the rest of nature's complete identity that are inseparable from all its individual parts. And know how an individual body has individual finite parts, but know also how there is an individual species body, humanity, made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies, and know how group differences like two eyes and two sexes are generated across species bodies, and how this is an extent slash s of where and how we can discern the body itself of nature, hyper invisible but still discernible. Where and how too it is showing us, even though your parents generated your things about you, those are exceptions nature that come with demonstration slash s of the same thing. Nature is making more of its identity, of its unchanging identity of relationship to itself, and of the only increasing value of that here, or as the value of that, and as a special difference conjunctive to it, slash hyperconjunctive to it, forced from here at the same time as forced space nature transfer, forced special difference transfer, as Earth's a special difference, but as our own. The only reason that is self-valued, going to outer space, for example, is because the breaching method only permitted self-valued collusion slash s with its method slash s. And it is inherent to, active to, and is progressive to the increasingly the value of your styles of logic, your natures of logic, relative to how recorded you came through campuses that had and slash have identities of integrity reliant upon criminally foreign influence slash worse quality aspect in nature, fact attribute nature, and roles with he said, she said, and reactions to it use slash s roles, and fake motivations, and uses of truths for lies, including especially about many ways too, about motivations. This breaching method had to force roles with a whole bunch of sick things. Excuse me. To hide from and to keep a whole bunch of sick things that we all want and need to counter together positive way, slash s. Instead, with only remember styles, needs, and natures forcing those demonstrations slash s of the breaching method, blamed on other things, others, ourselves, even though our founders communicated about that breaching method. It was his scientific value replaced right from the communications of James Madison. Again, and of nature itself. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, to discern a breaching method, and this would have surfaced right through the fake research, the fake care for it, fake passions and emotions. You guys were child abused. To hear that, to long to be that. In other words, should not put language, play the games, to hide the plot, change fake what I say about the fake World Trade Center attack, predicate acts of the news after the World Trade Center attack. Should have learned in the background. Now you can't even be trusted into branch. They fake transcripts, fake ties to me when I was a kid and as an adult, as one's directly and indirectly involved with the Saudi attackers, and with the remote use slash s of the voices in America and in Saudi Arabia, because this breaching method has rules with use of difference. You guys can't even read the Old Testament or the Quran. You can't afford to have discerned where and how right up front it dictates things. If you value that, all the fakes would dictate. Not capable of defending that and of affording to be heard, let alone to protract. Words relative, generated by all the revelations that come with having black people as whites of eyes, 2 eyes, while other species bodies, even fish, have black people as whites of eyes. In other words, nature is showing us it is about eyesight. There are 3 invisible but still discernible. That's why there are only 2 present participle, past participle names, hyper additional for the verb. There are only 2 of them, but there are 3 parts of time. 3 parts of time are bound. Forever nature's course is nature's period. See whites of eyes, I cipher 2. Who disbelieves, who pretends it's not fathomable, even more practical than what is convicted by and around the value of why and how. One of the only things that all the campuses did good at the same time in making people remember is don't shoot until you see the whites of eyes. I know a colonel said it. I don't know who it was. I forgot the name. I played no game. But the one that, in other words, there's one way to fight where everybody wins at the same time, or we sense an even better is real. And you guys have prevented honest, sane science too, regarding New York City. You guys can't be honest, sane regarding the suburbs. The suburbs are dependent upon food from other locations /s, and through bodies themselves, sickly, distinctly hurt, tortured. Fact should be nature extorted, and in fact should be nature enslaved, therefore physically. That's why the ocean it has this special difference for us to go on. That's why the ocean has fish with mercury in them, plastic in them, medicines in them, arsenic in them, chemicals in them, petroleum in them. God knows what else. Not because we use why and how we are a species body of individual bodies. Not because we use why and how. We're the only species that could be criminally foreign influence, let alone criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. So to speak as that which had slavery, not just through England, and England was fact in nature, therefore physically enslaved, the same way the North and the South, by more than one country in themselves that tortured, extorted. If this breaching method forced modern nations, the way it stayed entrenched right through it before and semi-as through the foundations that left the suits and ties, commas, exceptions as collusion /s one array. A whole bunch of passions and emotions, a whole bunch of people that we could trace. It's not real. Same ones allowed to change and fake what people say. Use other people's reporting, even when they use what was proven in courts. The courts had collusion so long, and in other words, they're recorded framing people too, including needing to hide life progressions with the families that run the prisons and the ones that train them at their campuses as use /s of location /s, which is hyper additional, but relative to where and how we can discern the breaching method. It comes through collusion / that everybody had /has at the same time, or they are sensed. And we can discern this. We have to be able to talk about it by drawing reference to those that collusion /s. It is the same breaching method that knew that nature would demonstrate itself, but it could get things like it knew that it could get and keep things like criminal foreign influences countered wrong, and then that countered wrong until it was right on both sides, but wrong on both sides exactly the way the breaching method wanted and needs, and for them to use truths for lies, to use truths to force that quality, to screen lies, to force that quality of fact-achieving nature. That's why people, the different reasons. One of the reasons some people call the leaders names is because clear as day, the black kids, for example, in the suburbs, and other cultural, other religious differences, all different slash yes, they are used remotely. Whole bunch of people from Trinity College that came from Wethersfield will tell you they were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to plant evidences between campuses. And when there are exceptions, they have sense and sensibilities that are involved with men and women with sexual and medical offenders of kids, where and how they have the retired police chiefs and detectives involved with investigators of other things, are under the guise of that to measure and maintain their keeping their mouth shut about certain things. They have also wire and mail crime acts and methods. Then they're going to go speak about crimes. Think about it. Then they have readings of statutes. Preston told it gives the benefit of the doubt to this person at the last second, based on the title, leaving out what came first, sequenceships. These are also names collusion slash S with the same house slash S, interstates and internationally involved with the spots next to the World Trade Center attack and next to Channel 3 News. And this is all that, which is also the difference slash S of guilt, is used constantly too to screen the rest of the. There are overt criminal enterprises, private ones involved with those names, and they're involved increasingly at and next to the state capitol in Hartford, Connecticut. In other words, people that said they were intimately tied to him. I never saw a Mark Corona or Kevin Corona on campus in my life. They put him in a class with me at Central Connecticut State University. I left the class. They're increasingly tied with like people with next to Harvard Hospital, involved with the agencies, foreign and domestic, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, not the way they pretend. Rolls through the World Trade Center attack with all kinds of medical corruption. These people are going to speak on sociopath. They do things to make the British Superior Court made a rape threat against me on Facebook, so they could play my face when I walk through the door of that place. The judge asked me if I was going to walk over the thing. I was about to. I went to say, no, it's not like that. I'm going to say, really what happens, they made a rape threat. There's a predator there are predators there that have been there since I was a kid. That's in the Britain Superior Court in the Britain, Connecticut. Involved with people planting evidence on my street in Connecticut and Wethersfield, Connecticut, since I was a kid. Involved with crimes with the news, organized crimes. Involved too with the Facebook pages, with a whole bunch of different police forums. Planting evidence on all sides of my house, all sides of their houses, playing their sense and sensibilities. A bunch of people with the retired police chiefs, intimate ties. Reno Mazzucato will tell you I barely know him at all. Only time I know him, they were planting evidences of people along Route 175, conjunctions to it and to that, and people involved with the wedding forensics, increasingly involved with that, with retired police chiefs. Houses near me, further with extended family members involved with the sexual medical offenders of the kids, proven and further involved. And also with leasing agents and their family members, all ages and natures of investigators. You guys have a lot of bad things to counter and to help against, because a breaching method needed to hide behind and through you, as that maintaining the outcome slash as you have yourselves. You speaking for the law. you speaking, you guys with the digital police forms, foreign and domestic there, share it. They have it exploited at corners of streets. Increasingly, so people that have been putting people in classes I went, there are ties between those people who have been planting evidences in campuses, intercampuses, and intra building on that as their collusion slash that's with crime scenes, including on Facebook recorded. All kinds of every time they record, they confirmed all kinds of great things relative to the World Trade Center attack, predicate acts. Each year since the World Trade Center attack, Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed a whole bunch of people tied to it. And as a Joshua Stryker, too, I never had a word of conversation in my life. Fake ties to me with sequence shifted, nonverbal confirmation the day after, years apart, with one of the girls involved with some sexually and medical abuses of kids that male and female judges, retired and standing, have collusion with, too, with victims advocates and people next to the state capitol. Increasingly, people tied to a Mark Violet and Joseph Kovitskis, all with the Wethersfield police chiefs and the police forms along Ridge Road, with this and Route 3 and 175 in conjunction to it into that. They also have corners of streets like along there and along that route and with the corner of Saustein Highway and Town Line Drive is increasingly with a Perone family and with others. Well, Mark Violet, our Kerr family, our recorded capacity demonstrated confirmed involved with various natures of federal evidences, crimes, and roles with people involved with abuses of kids, past and further connected, as people involved with judges and prosecutors and victims advocates too, with the same house / S involved with falsified police reports and drugs and medicines language involved with the names at and next to Harvard Hospital, involved with fake transcripts, mail crimes, wire crimes, relative delusions. You know, most Americans want demonstrated how the experts on reason are criminally foreign tactically delusions raw collusion / S with their patients too, to hide line progressions, to leave a description of for the future, to look back. It says this person, they put fake quotes to make people look like people spoke at places that are filmed 24/7. They're putting fake ties to kids at campuses filmed 24/7. There are other natures. There was a reported beating of a kid, even if that was made up, because they also have O'Brien family along Route 3 and with people with Cromwell, also with the name Neville, Mr. Neville is involved all along Route 3. Also increasingly with people with Sandy Hook campuses and a prison there. Have collusions with people from Puerto Rico, people from Vermont involved with the Mr. Neville and predicate acts at campuses I went, and with the prosecutors and judges involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Rick Cianfaglione sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm he was involved with federal evidences, crimes with them, identity theft, fraud, slanders, federal child abuse acts, identity, other girls from my campus confess they put me in fake locations and ties to them, try to make fake exceptions. And increasingly, people on Covington Street in the Britain, Connecticut, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed before I went there to that campus. They had collusions of people who planted evidence on my street in Wethersfield with a Rick Cianfaglione and his roles with the Connecticut District Court's people and with the New Britain Superior Court and with the Harper Courts with predicate acts before the World Trade Center attack. And in it, with people named Scalora, too. That also, I never saw Scalora on a campus I went to in my life. They've been faking ties to me with the same house / S tied to sexual medical offenders of kids in untimely deaths years apart. That's what brought up the confessions about that. And then they took my Facebook page tied to that. And that brought up the principal child abuser's campus too. These are also people involved with poisons. An officer named Poison involve all kinds of digital crimes with them and writing forensics, with crime scenes in the same house slash us since I was a kid, since before they lived there. The family involved with a Phil Cololo as their reported the extended cousin or whatever it is to them. And I only saw him on my street one time swerving a bike. The day after, someone else made a confession and said one of the girls' names. They're trying to get me to attack them. These are all people involved with actual violence. So Wethersfield police have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, plant the evidence on all sides of my house, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also with Officer Jerry Miller, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people with the name Kerr involved. There are also increasingly people within the British Superior Court or families involved with the Kerr family planting evidence, sequence ships, federal evidences, crimes, fake transcripts and databases at campuses, fake ties, fake nature ties to people, sequence ships, using it to measure and maintain them to keep their mouth shut about what came first. Or they're going to be sentenced and have more evidence racked against them. Has something to do with their town roles with town offices and election locations. They've been used remotely through administrations. These are people hiding their roles with use of the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. And then they will say, oh, well, this is how I came in because I killed the campus. This guy made me a CIA. Get the fuck down. Get the fuck on paper, motherfucker. Excuse me. Excuse my language. I shouldn't have to beg to get them on paper. Get me off the fake conversations with the interbranch and with the news at the same time first. Because our work, criminal enterprise, and private ones are involved with them and with the sources with that too. And they're ones I don't know. I mean, they need me to contact them now so they can leave a record. Pretend we communicate ever. Get them the fuck on paper. Shouldn't have to beg to get people on my. In other words, too, you're going to watch how sick the intercampus structures are with psychiatry too, right through the agencies. The names of the people, the sciences are being and have been used remotely. Thank God the law too. We have means to discern the black pupils, period. Watch how they use Judge Napolitano's sense and sensibilities. There are proofs that they hid fake change. The evidence is typed to him. And then they fired him relative to it. And Tucker Carlson. Increasingly, Tucker Carlson's campus is involved with people with planting predicate acts on my street with networks and with since I was a kid. And with more sexual and medical offenders of kids and people with whiting forensics, increasingly collusions with that through the years. Much more is reported than everyone was shown they need to pretend is reported. Watch, black pupils, period, who disbelieves. Get the music off when you're speaking about 911, World Trade Center attack, and your fake punk guys over. I didn't know. Get down, get on page.